Do you ever wake up and instantly know something's wrong, before your eyes even open, before your brains had time to catch up? That eerie quiet before chaos hits. Like your body senses danger seconds before your mind can even name it. That's exactly how my day began. I remember the hum of distant sirens threading through the morning fog, getting louder, sharper, more urgent, until they weren't distant anymore. They were right outside. And the thing is, they weren't just passing through. They were stopping for someone. My someone. They were there for my wife. I need you to listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just some story. It's the moment everything I believed about my life, my marriage, and the woman I loved began to unravel like a thread pulled loose from a tightly woven lie. If you've ever thought you knew someone inside and out, if you've ever put your entire soul into trusting them, only to realize they were hiding something from you the entire time, then you're going to understand exactly why I couldn't stop myself from digging deeper, even when every sign was telling me not to. And by the time you reach the end of this video, I promise you, you'll finally understand what really happened that morning, and why I can't unsee any of it now. But let me tell you something up front. I'm not here to waste your time. You clicked this video because something in that title made your heart skip, made your curiosity light up. And I get it, sirens, secrets, a wife with a hidden past. It's the kind of mystery that makes you lean in. I want you to know, you're not just going to get a story. You're going to get answers. Real ones. Shocking ones. But only if you stay with me. Because each piece matters, and if you skip even a second, you might miss the one clue that changes everything. This isn't one of those, it was all a dream clickbait stories. This is something real.
Dark. Messy.
Human. And I'm telling it to you the way it happened. No sugarcoating, no skipping the ugly parts. You ever hear people say you never truly know someone until it's too late? That's not just a dramatic line. It's a warning. I used to think my wife was the most transparent person I'd ever met. Organized. Loving. Predictable, even. She had routines. She cooked the same breakfast every Saturday. She folded the laundry a certain way. She hummed old 90s songs when she was deep in thought. We'd been married almost 7 years, and in all that time I never, not once, suspected there was another layer. But the truth is, she was a mystery wrapped in comfort. The perfect camouflage. And when the police showed up at our front door that morning, everything about her, everything I thought was real, started to dissolve. I remember how it all looked, burned into my memory like a brand. Blue and red lights flashing through the blinds. The crackle of radios. Officers swarming the front lawn like they already knew what they were walking into. My dog barking. My throat dry. My wife standing frozen at the foot of the bed, still in her robe, staring at the door like she'd been waiting for this moment. That's when I realized she wasn't surprised. She wasn't even scared.
She was ready.
Now let me pause and talk to you personally. Yeah, you. Watching from your phone, maybe curled up on your couch, or driving to work with this playing in your ears. I'm not just telling the story to entertain you. I need you to feel what I felt, to see the signs I missed. Because if something like this could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. I need you to ask yourself, how well do you really know the person you share your life with? Would you bet your freedom on them? Your future? Your truth? You're about to be pulled into a rabbit hole of secrets, lies, and chilling revelations that I never thought I'd be a part of. And I want you to follow me all the way down. Every detail I give you will come back around. Every name, every conversation, every odd glance, it all leads somewhere. But I won't insult you with cheap jump scares or predictable twists. This is a psychological unraveling, a suspenseful mystery that digs into human nature, trust, memory, and what happens when the past finally catches up with the present. Let me introduce the players in this twisted little drama, without giving too much away, of course.
First, there's me.
I'm just a regular guy. I work in IT, clock in and out, live a normal life. No criminal past. No shady friends. I'm the kind of guy who pays his taxes early and never forgets anniversaries. Then there's her, my wife, Madison. Beautiful.
Bright.
Quiet, but never secretive. At least, not that I knew of. And then there's the house itself. Our cozy suburban home, The kind you drive past and think, I bet a happy couple lives there. Yeah, appearances can be cruel. And then there were the police. Not one or two. A whole team. Detectives in plain clothes. A search warrant in hand. They weren't looking for me. They weren't even asking questions. They already had answers. Or thought they did. What they didn't know was that I wasn't going to sit back and let them tear my life apart without understanding why. I needed to know what they thought she did. And more than that, I needed to know if they were right. That's where it starts. With flashing lights and a woman who suddenly became a stranger in her own home. But it doesn't stop there. The deeper I went, the more disturbing it got. Old photographs, she said, she never took. Phone calls she'd step outside to answer. A storage unit I never knew about. A name, just a name, scribbled on a receipt that sent me down a trail I wasn't ready for. And at the center of it all, one burning question that still haunts me. Was she hiding from something, or was she running toward it? I want to say I handled it all with calm and grace. But I didn't. I broke things. I yelled. I begged her to tell me the truth. But all she ever said was, "It's better if you don't know." And when someone you love says that to you, it doesn't feel like protection. It feels like betrayal. Because love is supposed to be built on trust, and ours was suddenly built on quicksand. What would you do if the person you sleep next to, eat with, laugh with, was suddenly in handcuffs on your front lawn, eyes locked on yours like they're trying to say goodbye without using words? Would you believe them when they say it's all a mistake? Or would a part of you start wondering how long you've been living in someone else's script? You see where I'm going with this. This isn't just about my wife. This is about all of us. What we choose to see, what we choose to ignore, what we call normal when the truth is knocking at the door, sometimes with a badge and a warrant. So here's my promise to you right now. If you stay with me through this story, if you don't click away or skip ahead, you're going to learn the truth. The full, haunting, terrifying truth. And by the end, you won't just be questioning my wife. You'll be questioning everything. Because the truth doesn't just change your world, it wrecks it. But you deserve to know. We both do. And it all begins with one moment. One knock at the door. One name spoken over the police radio that changed everything I thought I knew. It's strange, the little things your memory clings to when your life is suddenly flipped upside down. I can still hear the kettle whistling from the kitchen that morning, still feel the softness of the throw blanket I'd pulled around myself while half asleep on the couch the night before. Madison had fallen asleep early. I stayed up watching those deep dive conspiracy videos on YouTube, those ones about unsolved crimes, double lives, people disappearing from suburban neighborhoods like ghosts. Ironic, right? Back then, I thought those stories were entertainment, something to help me zone out after a stressful work week. I never thought I'd be living one. But now, thinking back, those videos feel like a warning I should have paid more attention to. Like the universe was whispering, "Look closer. It's closer than you think." I worked from home mostly. IT support for a regional finance firm. Boring stuff, really. Resetting passwords, setting up firewalls, catching phishing emails before they tricked some poor client into losing everything. I liked it, though. It gave me routine, structure. Madison and I had carved out a quiet life in a quiet neighborhood. Our days were simple: coffee in the morning, walks around the block, weekend brunch with her sister and her overly nosy husband. I always thought we were stable. But stability is a tricky thing. Sometimes it hides all the cracks forming underneath. And sometimes it's just a cover for something much darker. The police wouldn't tell me anything at first. They separated us the second they stepped inside, like they already assumed I might be part of it. Or maybe they thought I was clueless. Either way, I stood there in the hallway, stunned, barefoot, heart pounding so loud I couldn't even hear what the officers were saying into their radios. Madison didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me with this blank expression I'll never forget. Like she was already somewhere else entirely. The only words she said as they let her out in handcuffs were, "I'm sorry. Don't follow me." Not call a lawyer. Not it's a mistake. Just that. And that's when my mind started spinning in 1,000 directions at once. I couldn't figure it out. Madison wasn't the kind of person who drew attention. She was reserved, warm but private. She worked part-time at the local library, volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends, and she had this little Instagram account where she posted photos of flowers and home-cooked meals. Nothing about her screamed criminal. And yet, in that moment, as the cruiser pulled away with her in the back seat, I realized I had no idea who she really was or what she might be capable of. That's when I started digging. Not just out of curiosity, but out of desperation. Because the longer I sat in that silent house, the more it felt like a crime scene instead of a home. I started with the obvious, her phone.
Locked.
Of course. Madison never kept her phone locked before, but a few weeks ago she started using a passcode, saying it was for privacy.
I didn't think much of it at the time.
But now, it felt like a wall I couldn't climb. So I went for her laptop. It was still on the kitchen counter, right where she always left it. I opened it, expecting to see open tabs about gardening or local events. But what I found instead was strange. She'd been researching names I didn't recognize, watching videos about identity theft, cold cases, forensic loopholes. She'd downloaded a PDF about witness relocation strategy, not something a regular suburban woman should be casually reading, right? But that wasn't even the worst part. Buried deep in her downloads folder was a scanned document. A driver's license. Except it wasn't hers. The name was different. The state was different. But the face was unmistakably hers, just slightly younger. She'd changed her name. At some point in the past, she'd been someone else entirely. That realization hit me like a freight train. My wife had a whole other life. And I didn't know a damn thing about it. Of course, my first instinct was to panic. To wonder if she'd committed some kind of major crime years ago and had been hiding ever since. But the more I thought about it, the more I started to doubt that theory. Because if she were a hardened criminal, wouldn't there have been signs? Sketchy friends? Late-night phone calls? Suspicious absences? No, it didn't add up. Which meant one of two things. Either she'd buried her past so deeply that not even 7 years of marriage could uncover it, or she wasn't the criminal at all. Maybe she was running from someone. Hiding. Which opened up an even darker possibility. What if the police had it all wrong? That's when I remembered something odd. About 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Madison had started acting different. Not obviously so, just little changes. She started double-checking the locks before bed, something she never used to care about. She got a second phone for work, though I never saw her use it. And she stopped talking to her sister. Cold turkey. Said they had a fight, didn't want to get into it. At the time, I respected her privacy. Now I see it for what it really was, a buildup. A quiet panic slowly creeping into our lives, hidden behind normal routines. I thought about people from her past. She never talked much about her childhood. Said it was messy. Her parents died young. She'd moved a lot, bounced around foster homes until she was 18. No close friends from back then. No college reunions. Nothing. It was like she'd intentionally wiped the slate clean before I met her. Back then, I thought that made her mysterious in a romantic way. Now, I realize it made her untraceable. I started reaching out, her old coworkers, the shelter, even her dentist, looking for any kind of connection. Most people said the same thing. Madison was nice. Quiet. Kept to herself. But there were two exceptions. One was a guy named Jeremy, an ex-volunteer at the shelter, who said she seemed paranoid lately. Claimed she once asked him if anyone had ever mentioned her name online. Said she offered him $200 to scan her name through the dark web. He thought she was just being dramatic. The other was a woman named Lisa, who used to work with Madison at the library. She told me Madison had been getting strange letters for months, unmarked envelopes with nothing inside but single words or photos with no captions. Madison never reported it. She just shredded them.
Said they were spam.
And just when I thought I'd hit a dead end, I found something else. A name, handwritten on a post-it note at the back of a dusty kitchen drawer. A. Riley. No context, no address. But something about it felt important. I searched it online, and one result came up that made my stomach drop. A news story. 15 years ago. A woman named Amanda Riley had disappeared without a trace in another state. No leads. No suspects. Just gone. The photo in the article looked familiar. Not because I recognized her face, but because the pendant she wore in that photo, the small silver one shaped like a compass, Madison had the same one. She wore it every single day. Now, I don't know if that means my wife is Amanda Riley.
I don't know if it means she was involved.
Maybe it's a coincidence. Or maybe it's the key to everything. But either way, I knew one thing. The truth wasn't just going to show up at my doorstep. I had to go find it. Even if it meant unraveling the person I thought I knew. Even if it meant chasing ghosts. And as I sat there in the silence of that house, surrounded by clues and questions and the faint smell of her perfume lingering on the sheets, I realized something else too. This wasn't just about the police showing up for my wife. This was about the life I thought we had being rewritten right under my nose. And whatever was coming next, it wasn't going to be easy to face. Because what if the person I loved most wasn't who she claimed to be? Or worse, what if she was? And just as I was about to give up, to try and sleep off the ache behind my eyes, my phone lit up. A blocked number. One message. For chilling words. You were never safe. The message from the blocked number wasn't just a creepy text, it was a warning. And deep down, I knew it wasn't just a random prank or some attention seeker. Whoever sent it knew things about Madison's past.
About me.
About what I'd started to uncover.
I should have stopped right there.
I should have put my phone down, locked the laptop, and pretended everything was normal. But I couldn't. That warning only lit a fire inside me. What kind of life was she hiding that people would go to such lengths to keep me away? Who were these invisible enemies lurking in the shadows, pulling strings, watching my every move? That's when the first real obstacles slammed into me. The evidence started to disappear. One morning, I went into the garage to grab a box of old photos Madison had packed away years ago. I wanted to look for clues, anything that might link her to the name Amanda Riley, or explain the strange letters she'd been getting. But the box was gone. Not just misplaced, gone. I asked neighbors if they'd seen anyone lurking around the house. Nothing. No sign of a break-in. But that box contained memories, secrets, proof. And now it was vanished as if it had never existed. My heart sank, but I kept digging. That's when Lisa, the library coworker who mentioned the letters, suddenly stopped returning my calls. I ran into her at a local cafe, and her face went pale when she saw me. She barely whispered, "You don't want to know what you're getting into," before disappearing into the crowd. That moment alone sent chills down my spine. How far did this go? And who else was watching? Then came the night someone rang my doorbell at 2 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I peeked through the peephole, there was no one there. But taped to the door was a small envelope, sealed with no return address. Inside, a single photo. It was Madison, but not the smiling woman I knew. It was her standing in front of a crumbling house, eyes wide with fear, holding a suitcase. The back of the photo had a message scrawled in messy handwriting. Trust no one. The words echoed in my mind for days. Who could I trust if even the people closest to Madison were warning me off? And then, out of nowhere, someone from Madison's past appeared. His name was Eric, her former boyfriend from years ago. He contacted me through Facebook, saying he wanted to help. At first, I thought he might hold answers. But something about Eric felt off. He was charming, overly helpful, always steering me away from certain questions, dropping hints that I should let the past stay buried. When I confronted him about Madison's multiple identities, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I started wondering if he was part of this tangled web, an ally or a trap. The deeper I went, the more I realized Madison's past was littered with secrets no one wanted me to find. One night, while going through some of her old emails on the laptop, I found a thread she'd deleted but was somehow still in the trash folder. It was a heated argument between Madison and an unknown sender named R. They were talking about the incident from 15 years ago, about keeping silent, about sacrifices made to protect someone else. The email hinted at betrayal, someone close who turned their back when it mattered most. But what was this incident? And who was the betrayer? I wanted to ask Madison, but she was in custody, refusing to talk. The police still wouldn't share what charges she was facing, but their eyes told me they believed she was dangerous. That terrified me. How well did they know her that I didn't? And what if, while I was chasing shadows, I was losing the only person who might ever give me the truth? Just as I thought I was reaching a breaking point, my car was vandalized. Someone smashed the windows, left a note taped to the dashboard. "Stop digging or you'll disappear too." I reported it to the police, but without proof, it was my word against the threat. Friends began to distance themselves, afraid the danger might spill over. My phone was hacked, emails intercepted. I was being watched, followed, warned to back off. And yet, there was no way back now. Every step forward was a step deeper into a darkness I couldn't escape. Was Madison protecting me from the truth? Or was she part of the nightmare that was closing in? One night, alone in the house, I found a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards in our bedroom. Inside was a small, locked box. I didn't have the key, but taped to the inside lid was a note in Madison's handwriting. "If you find this, it means I'm gone. Trust only what you see." My hands trembled. What was inside? What was she hiding so carefully? The answer seemed just within reach, but so was the danger. And just then my phone buzzed again. Another message from the blocked number. Some truths should never be unearthed. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, questions swirling. What did that mean? And would I stop before it was too late? Or was I already too deep to turn back? Just when I thought the nightmare was mine alone to bear, the chaos started bleeding into the lives of the people closest to me. My sister, Jenna, who had always been a rock, suddenly called me one evening with a voice shaking more than I'd ever heard before. She'd received a message, strangely similar to mine, from a blocked number, but the words were different, colder. "We're watching her now." My heart sank. Watching her. Who was her? Madison?
Me?
Or someone else I hadn't even considered? Jenna insisted she hadn't shared anything about the situation with anyone, yet somehow this ominous warning had found its way to her phone, like some shadowy figure was weaving a web around everyone who dared get close to the truth. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Madison or me anymore. It was bigger, messier, and more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. At the same time, a strange new piece of evidence emerged that threatened to upend everything I thought I knew. I was going through Madison's old emails, desperately trying to piece together her past, when I stumbled upon a file hidden in an obscure folder labeled simply for J. It was an encrypted video, and despite not knowing what J meant, I couldn't resist opening it. What I saw shook me to the core. The footage showed Madison, no, not the Madison I'd known, but someone younger, more vulnerable, meeting with a man whose face was blurred, but whose voice was unmistakably familiar. It was Eric, that slick ex-boyfriend who'd been hovering on the edges of my investigation, always acting like a friend but feeling like a snake in the grass. They were talking about a deal and a last chance. But the shock came when the man turned to reveal a tattoo that I recognized instantly, the same compass pendant Madison always wore. It wasn't just hers, it was his too. Suddenly, every theory I'd built about Madison's past felt flimsy, contradicted by this cryptic alliance. What deal had they made? What were they hiding from? And why had Eric resurfaced now, just when things were spiraling out of control? Meanwhile, Jenna wasn't safe either. After receiving that chilling text, she started seeing strange figures following her when she left work, noticed her phone's battery draining faster than normal, signs of someone hacking or tracking her. She begged me to help, but I felt powerless, buried in my own spiral of doubt and fear. The more we uncovered, the less we understood. Even police, who initially seemed to have clear suspicions about Madison, suddenly grew cagey when I pressed for answers. A detective I'd trusted quietly warned me to stop stirring things up and let sleeping dogs lie. But who were the sleeping dogs? And who had the leash? Every person I thought might be an ally, Eric, the detective, even Jenna, began to feel like potential suspects or pawns in a game I didn't fully understand. Adding to the confusion was a new discovery that seemed to erase everything previously believed about Madison's identity. A woman claiming to be Amanda Riley, alive and well, contacted me out of the blue. Her voice was calm but firm, and she insisted she was the real Amanda, not Madison. She spoke of a conspiracy, a long-running cover-up involving people in high places, and warned me that the woman I called my wife was playing a dangerous game with lives on the line. Her words cast doubt not just on Madison's past, but on the entire narrative I'd been chasing. Was Madison a victim or a mastermind? Was Amanda an imposter or a whistleblower? The lines between truth and deception blurred until I didn't know where one ended and the other began. All of this turmoil was unfolding while Madison remained silent in custody, refusing to answer any questions, her eyes distant yet accusing, as if daring me to dig deeper and warning me that I might not like what I find. And I couldn't help but wonder, was she protecting me by shutting me out, or was she hiding something even darker that could destroy us both? The stakes were no longer just about clearing her name or discovering the past. It was about survival, trust, and the fragile line between love and betrayal. Every call, every text, every shadow lurking just out of sight felt like a countdown to something inevitable. And as the pieces of this twisted puzzle collided, I realized I was no longer the hunter. I was the hunted. So here I am, stuck between half-truths and hidden threats, forced to question everyone I thought I knew, watching as the walls close in faster than I can keep up. The truth isn't just waiting to be found, it's waiting to be survived. And if I'm going to make it through, I'll have to face not only what's buried in Madison's past, but also the darkness that's creeping into my own. The question is, am I ready to see what comes next? Because whatever it is, it's coming for all of us. It started as little things at first, the kind of small, almost unnoticeable shifts that you chalk up to coincidence or your imagination running wild when you're stressed. But then those little things grew bigger, more tangible, more terrifying, like shadows inching closer until there was nowhere left to hide. I began to feel eyes on me everywhere I went, in every crowded coffee shop, in every dark parking lot. It was like invisible hands were tightening a noose around my neck, and no matter how fast I walked or how many streets I crossed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. My phone's battery drained at an unnatural speed, GPS apps glitched, and once, while driving home late at night, I caught a glimpse of a black SUV tailing me through the rain-streaked windshield. My heart raced, and hands gripped the steering wheel as I sped through back roads, desperate to lose them. But the SUV was relentless, mirroring every turn, every stop. That was the moment I realized the warnings weren't empty threats. They were real, and they were coming for me. The worst part wasn't the fear itself, but the loneliness it brought. You start doubting everyone, even yourself. What if I was imagining things? What if this paranoia was eating me alive, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare? But then the calls came. At first, just heavy breathing on the other end of the line. Then silence. Then a voice, low and cold, saying simply, "Stop now, or you won't see tomorrow." No name. No hint of who it was. Just a warning meant to freeze me in place. And when I tried to trace the number, it was always blocked, untraceable, like a ghost communicating from the void. And then Jenna disappeared. It was the kind of disappearance that shakes you to your core because it's sudden, unexplainable, and completely out of her character. She hadn't answered her phone for hours, which was unlike her since she was usually glued to it. I called her apartment, her workplace, her friends. No one had seen or heard from her. Panic slammed into me like a freight train. Was it connected to those texts she'd gotten? Had someone come for her, just like they were coming for me? I wanted to believe she was safe somewhere, just needing a break from the chaos. But every part of me screamed otherwise. As I scrambled to find any clue, I realized just how isolated I'd become. Friends I thought I could count on had stopped answering, neighbors avoided eye contact, and even the police, those sworn to protect, treated my calls like nuisances. One officer warned me bluntly, "You're playing with fire. Stay out of it, or you'll end up in deeper trouble." But how could I stay out when my sister was missing and the woman I loved was locked behind bars, silent and unreachable? How could I stop when every unanswered question screamed louder than my fear? Sleep became a stranger. Every creak in the house, every flicker of the streetlight outside, set my nerves on edge. I found myself checking the locks over and over, scanning the dark corners for movement that wasn't there, or maybe was. My mind twisted every shadow into a threat, every stranger into a suspect. The line between caution and paranoia blurred until they were one and the same. I was trapped in a nightmare with no escape hatch, no safety net. And yet, amidst the chaos, I kept replaying the last time I saw Jenna, the last conversation we had. She'd sounded scared but wouldn't say why. She'd begged me to be careful, to stop digging. But how do you stop chasing the truth when it's the only thing that might save you? How do you silence the voice inside screaming that everything you believed is a lie? Then, in the depths of one sleepless night, a final, chilling message arrived. It wasn't on my phone, not this time. It was slipped under my front door, a simple note on a scrap of paper with one sentence written in hurried, jagged handwriting. You were warned. Now they're coming for you. As I held that note, heart pounding, I realized the game had changed. This was no longer about uncovering secrets or proving innocence. This was survival. And if I didn't find answers soon, I might not live to tell the story. So here I am, caught in the eye of a storm I don't understand, haunted by shadows I can't outrun, and driven by a desperate hope that somewhere in the darkness lies the truth. But with every step I take, the questions only multiply. Who is they? What do they want? And can I even trust the woman I married? Or was she part of the danger all along? The only thing I know for sure is that this mystery isn't over. Not by a long shot. And whatever happens next, it's going to change everything. Just when I thought I was spiraling toward the bottom, when the walls seemed to be closing in tighter with every unanswered call and vanished clue, everything shifted in a way I never saw coming, like the floor dropping out beneath me and plunging me into a darker, deeper abyss. It started with a phone call from Madison's sister, someone I hadn't spoken to since everything began, someone I'd trusted implicitly as part of the family I thought I knew. Her voice was trembling, and when she finally spoke, she dropped a bombshell that shattered every assumption I'd held onto. She told me that Madison's silence in custody wasn't just defiance or fear, it was protection.
Protection from me.
From the truth. And that the real mystery wasn't about what Madison had done or who she had been, but what I had failed to see all along. The biggest shock was that Madison's entire life, including our marriage, had been an elaborate act, an act to shield me from something so dangerous, so complicated, that the police and even the people closest to us had been caught in the dark. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. Madison wasn't the hunted. She was the guardian. The one who'd sacrificed everything to keep me safe. I sat in silence, mind reeling, trying to reconcile the loving woman I married with this new reality. And then came the twist that tore the last veil away. A hidden compartment inside our old safe, something I'd overlooked, contained a flash drive with files marked simply for you. It was from Madison, addressed to me. The contents were devastating. Videos, documents, names, dates, evidence of a conspiracy so wide and deep that it implicated people I'd trusted without question. Including the detective who warned me to stop digging, Eric, the ex-boyfriend who'd seemed suspicious, but maybe was more of an ally than I realized, and even Jenna's disappearance wasn't random. She'd been taken to protect me, to keep me from crossing a line I wasn't prepared to face. And right there, staring at the evidence on the screen, everything I thought was true shattered. The danger wasn't coming from outside forces alone. It was woven into the very fabric of the life I thought I had. Madison had been playing a game on a level I couldn't even grasp, and I was the unwitting pawn caught in the crossfire. It wasn't just about trust or betrayal anymore. It was about survival, secrets hidden in plain sight, and a truth so explosive it could destroy everything. And in that moment, I understood that the story I'd been chasing wasn't a mystery to solve. It was a warning to heed. Because the real question now wasn't who is Madison, but who can I trust? And the answer was no one. The night the truth finally crashed into me wasn't marked by fireworks or loud confrontations. It was quiet, terrifying, and inevitable, like the calm before a storm so fierce it could swallow everything whole. I found myself standing in the shadow of the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place Madison's files had pointed to as the key to everything, the final piece of the puzzle where secrets long buried would either set me free or destroy me completely. The air was thick with tension, each breath coming like a whisper against the silence, and every shadow seemed to move just beyond the edge of my vision. I wasn't sure what or who I was walking into, but I knew it was the last chance to confront the maze of lies, betrayal, and danger that had twisted my life beyond recognition. Inside, I was met with cold eyes and a calmness that sent a chill deeper than the autumn night could. Eric stood there, no longer the charming ex I had doubted, but a man who had been pulling strings all along, part of the conspiracy that had ensnared Madison and Jenna, and now me. His voice was steady, controlled, when he finally spoke, explaining that Madison had been working undercover, trying to expose a web of corruption reaching into the highest levels of law enforcement and government. He revealed how the police raid, the threats, the disappearances, they were all parts of a dangerous chess game, with Madison as the queen trying to take down kings who would kill to protect their secrets. And Jenna? She wasn't missing. She was hidden, safe but silenced, a bargaining chip in this deadly game. My mind reeled as Eric laid out the chilling truth. Madison's silence had been to protect not just me, but the fragile network she'd built to bring justice. She had sacrificed everything, even our marriage's honesty, to shield me from the monsters lurking in shadows. The files, the encrypted videos, the mysterious messages, they were all pieces of a larger war I had unknowingly stumbled into. I had to decide, walk away and let it all be buried, or step into the fire with Madison's secrets and face whatever came next. But then the tension broke like a thunderclap. The warehouse door slammed shut, and from the darkness stepped Madison herself, her eyes fierce but haunted. She hadn't been a victim or a criminal, she'd been a warrior, a ghost fighting battles no one saw. As we faced each other, years of pain and lies swirling between us, the air was thick with unspoken truths. I demanded answers, and she gave me the raw, brutal honesty I'd been desperate for. How she'd faked identities, lost friends to this fight, and kept me close to protect me even as she pushed me away. But the real shock came next. In that final moment, a gunshot rang out, echoing off the cold steel walls. Eric collapsed, a look of betrayal frozen on his face. Madison's hands trembled, her eyes darting to the shadowed corner where a figure stepped forward, Jenna. She was alive, and she wasn't a hostage, but a player in this deadly game, her own secrets as deep and dark as Madison's. She revealed that Eric had been manipulating us both, using us as pawns to protect his own ambitions. The family I thought I knew had been fractured by lies, but also bound by a fierce, dangerous love that kept us fighting, even in the darkest hours. The warehouse seemed to close in, the truth settling like dust on our shoulders, heavy but undeniable. And as we stood there, shattered but alive, I realized this story wasn't just about uncovering secrets, it was about confronting the shadows within ourselves and each other. The final twist? The evidence Madison handed me that night. A USB drive containing not just proof, but a live feed showing the real puppeteers, waiting for their next move. The war wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The aftermath was a strange kind of silence, heavy and surreal, settling over everything like a thick fog that neither comforted nor comforted fully. We had faced the darkness head-on, exposed lies that reached far beyond our little world, and yet the cost was immeasurable. Madison and Jenna, once shrouded in mystery and danger, were finally free from the webs that had ensnared them, but the scars remained, silent reminders of battles fought in shadows no one else could see. I found myself standing at the edge of a life I barely recognized, haunted by questions that refused to be answered and memories that clung like shadows long after the sun had set. The files, the threats, the betrayal, they had unraveled a world I'd thought was simple and safe, replaced by something far more complex and fragile. And yet, in that fragile space, I found a strange kind of peace, Not in the truth itself, which remained elusive and often painful, but in the knowing that I had survived it, that I had chosen to face it rather than run from it. Madison's final gift was not just the evidence or the revelations, but the courage to see beyond fear and doubt, to accept that some mysteries don't end with clear answers, but with the strength to live alongside them. As I close this chapter, I'm left with the lingering echo of her words. Trust no one, but hold on to what's real. Because in a world where shadows can hide anything, the only thing worth holding on to is the truth you carry in your own heart. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep fighting, for love, for justice, and for the hope that light can still break through the darkest night.